Dubbing. Sometimes it can be great, but other times...
Father, when can I leave to be on my own?
If you've been on the internet for the past couple of months, then you've probably seen something like this floating around. It's from a trailer from one of the, 4 Pinocchio movies that's getting released in 2022. Obviously, one of the biggest things that grabbed people's attention was Pauly Shore, with his drawn-out, lethargic, and sassy line delivery that might be appropriate for Bobby from a Goofy movie.
Max, here. Guard this with your life, dude.
But maybe not a bright-eyed young boy who genuinely wants to see the world.
Along with any other worlds out there. I want to see them all.
This prompted a lot of online buzz, memes, and of course, parodies on sites like TikTok, referring to this version of Pinocchio as yassified.
When can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Even Lionsgate themselves jumped on the bandwagon with their own TikTok. Wait till you hear it, the yassification of #Pinocchio, gaining 12 million views in less than a week. I don't know if they were in on the joke or if this was all just some kind of intentional marketing ploy to make the film stand out.
Thank you guys so much for the yassification of Pinocchio.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. You know the drill, Patreon there if you feel like it, updates in the pinned comment if we find any. So once the movie came out, we could actually see just how bad the lip sync was.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you again.
So this means the suspects must have gone? Let's go, my boy. I have a a huge surprise for you.
And given all the other animation screw-ups in the movie, maybe that was to be expected. Ah yes, the snare drum. But eventually, we came to realize that the lip sync was indeed due to this not just being a dub, but a dub of a dub. Sort of.
Father, tell me,
when can I leave to
be on my own?
I've got the
whole world
to see.
Pinocchio: A True Story was animated and produced in Russia, where it was obviously voiced by Russian actors in Russian.
Я Белла. А вас как зовут, благородный спаситель?
Мое имя Пиноккио.
But then the film was dubbed in English by a Russian dub studio called Straight Pro. And, well, I guess by the time Lionsgate was advertising the film here in America, it had its own English dub.
As you can see, the first attempt failed.
That's not an uncommon practice by any means, but what I'm less familiar with, personally, is only redubbing a few of the roles for America, and leaving the rest as is. Almost every other actor from the English-Russian dub was preserved, and the only characters that were recast were the 3 leads. Obviously there was Pauly Shore as Pinocchio, but Geppetto was also dubbed over by Tom Kenny, and Tybalt the Horse, who it feels like has more lines than Pinocchio himself,
I'd rather not say anything!
Voiced by Jon Heder. Maybe the horse on Napoleon's shirt was foreshadowing this whole time. I know this might sound strange, but looking into Lionsgate's film distribution history actually reveals that this is pretty par for the course with them. The company seems to have a reputation for releasing dubs for foreign CG films with some celebrities.
Drake Bell,
Tom Arnold, Carrie Elwes, Jon Heder.
This isn't even their first time with Pauly Shore, and Jon Heder seems to be one of their favorite celebrities to use in them, with quite a few of those films, including this one, being handled by Bang Zoom Entertainment. Yes, the same studio that has been responsible for anime dubs like Haruhi, SAO, and JoJo. In fact, the ADR director for Stone Ocean was the ADR director for this film.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own?
And if you stay till the end of the credits, you'll see the usual Bang Zoom staff were involved, like Mami Okada. Obviously, recording studios like this do more than just anime, but would you believe me if I said that this isn't even the weirdest project Bang Zoom has worked on? I mean, there were also those weird religious cult anime films that also coincidentally involved Tom Kenny.
Oh dear, now everyone's staring at me.
Not only that, but Tom Kenny is set to star in another animated Pinocchio movie coming out later this year, called The Water of Life, which was also co-produced in Russia. And not only that, but Lionsgate had also recently brought Pauly and Jon to voice in another Russian animated movie called My Sweet Monster.
Come on! A royal kiss!
And not only that, but Heater's already been in the English dub of an Italian Pinocchio film that Lionsgate was involved with 10 years ago.
Well, that explains everything.
There's a lot of weird overlap going on, and I don't know much about Lionsgate's business strategies when it comes to these animated films, but frankly, after seeing this one, I don't think I want to know.
Rebecca Black, featuring Anthony Padilla and Ian Hecox, the creators of Smosh.
Speaking of, slight disclaimer, as this video is going to be structured a little bit differently from our usual videos on dubs and localization. We usually go over the English dubs of a property and compare it to the original language in order to try to better understand the adaptation process. However, we can't find the original audio anywhere on the internet, so instead, we want to look at the voice acting of both English dubs on their own and try to ascertain their qualities as best we can.
Let's go, Tybalt! Great adventures awaits!
It's not a joke. It's a very serious matter. We're looking for tough criminals.
And what do you think will come of all this?
We don't know much about the Russian English dubbing scene, but please let us know if you do. And if someone knows where we can find the original Russian audio for this movie, we'd love to see it. I can't promise that we'll like it at all, but we'll still find it interesting. Even then, there would arguably be limits to what we could do since we're not super familiar with Russian linguistics and culture, nor do we know much about the Russian voice acting market. Now that doesn't mean we don't have some information we can tell you, but my first question was, what's with the Russian animated Pinocchio films these days? Isn't Pinocchio an Italian story? And it is, but Russia has its own version dating back to the 30s. Alexei Nikolaevich Tolstoy wrote his own adaptation of the original story called The Golden Key, or The Adventures of Buratino. So despite this film being called Pinocchio, it also draws on elements of this Russian version of the story as well. The intro discounts the usual trope of Pinocchio's nose getting longer when he lies.
People started making up some silly stories about growing noses and whatnot.
But that's a key distinction of the Tolstoy adaptation, while Bella is probably based off of Tolstoy's version of the Blue Fairy. The Russian voice of Manja Foko actually played Buratino as a child in a 1975 live-action version of Buratino. So there's some meta value there. I'm sorry, we haven't even gotten into the film proper yet. I know it seems like we're grasping at straws, but really, we're stalling. We spent too much time trying to make heads or tails of this film, and we are not letting all of that go to waste.
At least, this will make for an extremely interesting story.
So let's start with the quote-unquote original English dub, since the audio makes up a majority of both versions, directed by Evelina Novikova, who seems to have a lot of experience in Russian video game audio. Again, this is my first time with an English dub from Russia. Honestly, it reminded me of my experiences watching English dubs from Southeast Asian countries, and while the quality definitely varies from project to project, there are generally a lot of overlapping complaints with dubs like these, such as awkward scripting or mismatched lip flaps. Although even the weakest Southeast Asian dubs I can think of didn't have lip sync nearly as bad as this film.
I shouldn't have spoken to Tybalt like that.
I just bought you, little girl, from someone who kidnapped you from your parents.
Trust me, it's better to regret things you've done than regret things you've never tried.
Though to be fair, it has fully animated mouth movements, not simple anime lip flaps. We've discussed in our video on Beastars how those can be trickier to deal with.
I cannot see anything behind this curtain.
Pinocchio! Son!
Pinocchio! Where are you going?
Even if it can definitely be done better than this.
What if Lucilda does make him human? What then? I don't need another human performer. Please, please. What kind of ridiculous accusations are those?
It's baffling though, because if the dub production seemingly let this level of lip sync slide, then why does the actual acting sound so stilted and riddled with awkward pausing?
You sacrificed yourself for another. Only someone with a real heart and soul could do this.
But it's his wooden hands that pull all the strings. He's a brilliant criminal mastermind.
Never thought I'd find common ground between the English dubs of Pinocchio starring Pauly Shore and Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0.
If you can move around and make yourself useful and help Ken.
Sometimes specific pauses are necessary in order to match the timing of the animation. But there are good and bad ways of writing around them.
But didn't Lord Matsudaira take us?
under his wing and look after us.
Be quiet! Men can survive knowing the Sengoku era alone!
None of this is helped by the occasional lack of contractions, which only makes the script sound even less natural.
I will shoot blanks, of course.
Of course you will be a star.
She is the real reason you left your home.
Some characters sound more on the American side of things, while others are more on the English, but some are hard to identify.
The best miracles in this life always happen without any help from us, fairies.
I get the feeling certain actors are fighting to hide their natural accent, similar to Sekai in the English dub of Gundam Build Fighters from Hong Kong, but we can't exactly come to that conclusion considering how little we actually know about this English cast.
Innocent as lambs, and yes, we're poor artists.
From briefly scanning IMDb, we know at least 2 of the actors are from Russia, yet have acted or trained in multiple other countries. Regarding Pinocchio's voice, this is the only Jordan Worsley that I could find related to acting in Russia, but there's not that much info.
И Джордан Уорслей, я записала себе, как правильно произносится.
Я бы сказал, я очень хорошо пою без присутствия людей.
Even though that probably wouldn't change the fact that he sounds like he downed half a bottle of Valium before every recording session.
I'm a person and I'm alive.
That's debatable. At least, this is how I felt when I first watched this version on its own. After listening to the Yassified version, and yes, that is what we're calling it, I actually gained a bit of appreciation for how Jordan's performance actually matched the way the character was written.
Come on, Tybalt! Let's see what it was.
Come on, Tybalt. Let's see what it was.
Yes, Tybalt. I have a special, most treasured dream.
Yes, Tybalt. I have a special, most treasured dream.
Some may say it's a good change. Others may say it's a bad change.
If you really get down to it, the main deviation between these 2 dubs is the performance of Pinocchio. And honestly, I don't know what the thought process regarding Pauly Shore was.
You left it in my mouth.
Even in interviews, he said he was surprised when getting contacted about playing Pinocchio, and that he wasn't given any specific direction to sound the way that he sounded. But he did say he likes voice acting and just did what he felt was right.
That's exactly how much I have.
Hold on, Justice.
If you ask me, though, every actor in both these dubs, despite the subpar ADR script, direction, acting, and casting, were at least trying to take the story seriously, even if they failed. All except for Pauly Shore.
Oh.
Don't give me that attitude, you guys. I'm doing it all for you.
Then there's Jon Heder playing Tybalt the horse, and I don't know if this is just me coming off of the other dub where the actor tried neighing all of his lines.
Oh, you're already here. He's just worried about you, my boy. And before you know it, we'll be there and back.
What the fuck? But Heder just kind of sounds like some random guy.
I understand I might be a boring companion, but you could have made a more joyful and intelligent puppet.
I'm supposed to get a toy with this? Thanks.
Are you sure?
He obviously knows how to act, but I would argue the stilted ADR script and lack of contractions stand out even worse for him.
She is the real reason you left your home. What the heck are you guys doing? Trying to ruin my life and make me look like a friggin' idiot?
Then again, I don't think the best actor on the planet could make some of these lines work.
Well, my friend might be made of wood, but someone here has sausages for brains. And that leaves one question. Who's the real monster here?
That was one of the more surprising things, actually. The ADR script for the Yassified version is almost one-to-one exactly like the non-Yassified one, retaining many of its flaws.
But as soon as I met her, I realized she is the most beautiful thing the world has to offer.
There are a few moments of light rewording from Pauly, Tom, and John here and there.
I'll do one performance. Come back home.
I'll do one performance and I'll be back home.
But I don't think it gives you the right to criticize my work here.
But I don't think it gives you the right to criticize this fine work.
Goodbye, Father. I'll be back soon.
Bye, Daddy. Bye-bye.
Which really makes me wonder why the few changes that were made even happened. I mean, why not adapt the script more to make it better? Now, credit where credit's due, we think there were attempts to make the reused audio sync up better in the Yassified version.
You were born to be shining in the arena. You will become a star, my boy. Everyone will know your name.
Sometimes a syllable will be stretched out, or the audio for a line will start slightly before or after.
But first, right in front of you, our marksman will shoot an apple off my head.
And we came up with a perfect plan for catching the real criminals. And look at that.
But they're so subtle that you'd completely miss them unless you watched both versions side by side. Overall, you might think that the Bang Zoom dub has better lip sync than the original, right?
Senor Mangiafoco.
Senor Mangiafoco.
Dad, I can make a lot of money.
Dad, I can make a lot of money. Great adventures await!
Paulie definitely ratchets up the yassification on certain lines more than others, and even does these weird little ad-libs in between dialogue.
It's just me. Alive!
Love it or hate it, they'll probably be the most memorable parts of the film.
So long, Butterface!
I don't know what the hard and fast definition of a gag dub is because they all have slightly different circumstances, but when thinking of dubs like Ghost Stories, Ninja Robots, Island of Giant Insects, or Kung Pao, it felt like every part of the writing and acting production was in on the joke, not just one guy. I honestly wouldn't mind if this film was a committed gag dub, or if they legitimately wanted to improve the ADR quality for the sake of the original story. But sadly, this was neither. However, it's not like everything was equally bad in these dubs, or even in the movie itself.
Well, it was nice meeting you.
We didn't get the money, the puppet is gone, and what are we going to tell Mangiafoco?
Just look how beautiful it is out there. The moon and the stars twinkling in the water. Boats rolling gently by the shore.
The CGI can be a little bit uncanny, but there is a certain attention to detail for key characters that almost doesn't match the rest of the movie. There were some songs sung by Bella that genuinely did sound nice, but that might be because it was sung by a different person than the actual actor of the character.
There are no limits for me in a big top up here. I fly for you.
And Mangiafoco is their boss!
Oh, and both Geppettos actually sounded good in an unironic way.
From you, Senora, a mere thank you is more than enough. That really is all I need.
I don't need money. I just need you, Pinocchio.
I will always be a little bit more partial to Tom Kenny, but both have a very soft, whimsical tone to their voice that I think matches this version of Geppetto well. Assuming I have the right guy, his other English actor, Jonathan Salway, is the artistic director of the Moscow English Theatre.
He grew up to be a selfish actor, or an artist, or a turtle who only cares about pizza.
Actually really imagine the character, picture them, see them, so that as you're talking to them, they can be imagined as well by the audience listening.
Also, can I just say that I'm happy that Tom Kenny actually got top booking on this film when it was being advertised? I wish it was for a better film, but, you know, baby steps. And the worst part is, Geppetto's barely in this movie compared to the fucking horse. At the end of the day, though, maybe those points sounded so good to us because we are grading on multiple curves here. There's a lot more wrong with this movie than just the voice acting. Sure, you could argue that the yassified version has more meme potential, but when you sit down and watch the movie proper, that novelty runs thin very quickly, and all you're left with is a Pinocchio that is different enough to be distinguishable, but almost exactly as wooden sounding and annoying as the original.
Goodbye, pile of broken wood.
All you're left with is an hour-and-a-half film that feels twice as long as it has any business being. Halfway through, I was craving the 1940s Disney version, which was about as long as this one, but was able to cover so much more material. There's arguably a lot of stuff going on in this movie too, but it feels so fragmented and disjointed.
And you don't find that little fact suspicious?
What little fact?
You don't think it's suspicious that there's no one suspicious in your home?
There were so many instances where the characters are just waiting for other characters to do things, and half the time, there are a bunch of side stuff that could easily be cut, but then the movie might be less than an hour long.
Santa Maria Madonna on the bicycle!
Asking which dub is better is basically a non-starter. This film is awful in both. I get that some people don't like anime dubs because they can sound stilted, but not this stilted most of the time, right? Both versions seemingly do everything wrong, from mismatched performances to bad lip sync and awkward timing, while the merits are just too few and far between. I might have complained about the research that we did just trying to get some basic answers about these dubs, but I genuinely feel like that experience added more to my life than actually sitting down and watching the movie. There's a lot more things I would love to know about this film, plus it has made me curious about the dubbing of properties outside of just anime. So maybe we'll cover stuff like that as time goes on, who's to say? Either way, I'm done saying anything positive about this experience, but I will thank you all for watching this video and justifying this massive waste of time. But for now, let us know what you thought of Pinocchio: A True Story in the comments. Obviously, we didn't think this movie was great, but if you did, what about it did you enjoy? Do you prefer one of these dubs over the other? Would you still want to watch the original Russian version? Do Russian-English dubs interest you? Know anything about them you could share with us? How much did Pauly Shore's performance make the film for you? And while we're on the topic, what's your favorite adaptation of Pinocchio? Be sure to follow us on YouTube and social media to stay updated, as well as check the pinned comment if there's stuff we realized after posting this video. I feel like we owe a lot to the Dubbing Wikia for being our main starting point for finding info on these dubs. Check it out if you want to see more, but for now, I think we've had our fill. As usual, a big thank you to our generous patrons for supporting us, including Reagan Senpai, Jose Argumedo, Andrew Wade Pittman, Marissa Lenti, A. Hoba, Xavier Gordon, Queen Era 2, Ryan Rodriguez, JR Pictures, Tristan Gallant, and Unknown Secret 1000. Go watch the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio movie when it comes out on Netflix, or defeat some Heartless in the Monstro level of Kingdom Hearts. This has been the Cartoon Cypher, and do svidaniya.